Hello, my name is Jared Dees with TheReligionTeacher.com. This is the first in a series of videos to help you use the Religion Teacher's Guide to Lesson Planning ebook as effectively as possible. Today we'll look at the first step to help you with the pre-planning process. First, a little overview again of the four-step system contained in the ebook. First, know the topic. In other words, you can ask yourself, what should I teach? Step 2, create lesson objectives, answering the question, what do I want the students to learn? Step 3, determine the assessment, or how will I know they have learned it? And step 4, choose the process to reach the objectives you made in step 2. In other words, how will I get them there? Today we're going to look at step 1. And step 1 essentially answers the question, what should I teach? And that question is answered specifically by the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Now, all of our catechetical materials are developed using the Catechism as its basis. So, diocesan parish curricula are usually developed using the Catechism, and textbooks are evaluated by the U.S. bishops to make sure that they're in conformity with the Catechism. The Catechism itself is a much longer document that is very difficult for catechists and teachers to necessarily teach directly from, but is a great resource and a great reference material while you're instructing your children. So what we want to do in step 1 is divide the material into lessons. So first you want to consult your curriculum and divide the material into logical divisions or logical lessons. Second, you want to pre-read the chapter to find some logical divisions. So you're looking at both the curriculum and your textbook to find the best sections to divide the chapter up or the unit up. And then you're actually going to make the divisions. You're actually going to determine which lessons or what material will fall into which lessons. And usually people do this in a unit planning process. This is a little bit more difficult for catechists who only meet once a week, but especially important for teachers. It involves creating a unit goal or a unit objective, guiding instruction towards central questions or essential questions, ending a unit with a performance assessment in addition to a test, and essentially each lesson that you create will be building towards that unit goal. But once you've created some separation, some actual lessons to start your material, you'll want to start looking into the details. So you'll read specifically your chapter or the sections that you divided, and you'll fill in the lesson preparation template, which is a resource provided in the free ebook, The Religion Teacher's Guide to Lesson Planning. So first you're going to list all the vocabulary terms, then you'll list the main ideas and statements and facts, create or select some questions that you want to reference later, and create questions that will require some critical thinking. And these are some of the resources you might want to look at. And in just a minute, we're going to look at the lesson preparation template, and I'll show you how to use it, or at least how I intended for people to use it. The textbook conformity listing is on the USCCB website, as well as the curriculum for high schools, the doctrinal elements of the curriculum framework. And usually a diocese will have their religious education curriculum on their website. So this is the lesson preparation template that I provided in the ebook. It's also on the resources page for the Religion Teacher's Guide to Lesson Planning. And essentially, what I want you to do here is just do some pre-preparation for the actual lesson plan itself. In other words, know the material or know the topic before you actually get into the lesson planning part. So the first thing you want to do is save the template into an actual document you want to save, and you'll add the chapter. Let's say for our purposes we want to have a chapter on the Ten Commandments. And you put the page numbers here. Let's say it's 30 to 40. It's probably unlikely that you'll have a chapter, only one chapter on the Ten Commandments, but just for our sake we'll imagine that. So what you'll do is you'll first skim through the chapter to find the vocabulary terms that you want the kids to know, or that the kids will at least need to know as a basis for more complex ideas. So it's likely you'll have a Decalogue will be one of the vocabulary terms. So you'll list that down. Let's say it's on page 30. Then with the first commandment, you'll have idolatry, no doubt, as one of the vocabulary words. Blasphemy. And Sabbath, more than likely, will be a vocabulary word related to the third commandment. Let's imagine that those are the main vocabulary terms of this lesson that you're creating on the first 3 commandments, let's say. And then you want to get a list of main ideas. These are kind of more complex topics, not just definitions, but kind of concepts throughout the chapter that you'll want to come back to. So as you'll take a closer look, a closer read of the chapter, and you'll probably find that something about the first 3 commandments are connected to Jesus' response to what is the greatest commandment as love God, and that the other 7 commandments, or 4 through 10, refer to love your neighbor. There's also other something built off idolatry. Idolatry, maybe it talks about in the text, is more than just worshiping other gods, especially for us in our world today, and for the kids you're teaching. And also something about maybe the Sabbath being on a Saturday, and the Lord's Day, the day that Christians worship on a Sunday. And as you're doing that, you might also have some questions that you want the kids to remember, some questions you want to note down as maybe a quick check for understanding, or maybe something you want to incorporate into a quiz. You can start to form these questions here, so you have them in a place that you can reference later on. For example, how did Jesus summarize the 10 Commandments? Might be a question that you want them to know. What day is the Sabbath? Why do Christians worship on Sunday? Etc. And I also have in the bottom here, just to get the ideas flowing, also some ideas for some critical thinking opportunities. Based on this information, it's more than likely there can be some comparisons made here. One of the most common ways of critical thinking. So you might compare Jesus' greatest commandments and the 10 Commandments. Or you might compare Sabbath, or worship on the Sabbath, and the Lord's Day, or the meaning behind those 2 different days. So that's it, just a brief little tutorial, a brief little introduction to how you should to start your preparation for the lesson. The next step, we'll be looking at how to form lesson objectives, and then we'll move on to assessment, and then further into how to actually teach students to reach their objectives and to perform well in assessments. So this is going to be an important document, an important resource as we move into the next step.